Okay, where are we at? Where are we at? What we doing? Who we are, and what does go on. That probably needs to go slightly more over there. I need to move this plate. That needs to come up. Okay. This wire, that can go around like that. And now I think we've got everything sorted. So just wait a couple of minutes for it to actually hit the allotted time. 10 o'clock, and then we'll go. We'll get into it. Boom. Alright, where are we at? I wonder who's winning the prediction contest at the moment. Alright, hello people. I was just giving people some time to get in. before I started, but I think we're getting to... I think people have had enough time. I'm just looking at the... currently QQ is winning the prediction contest with Dr. Playtech at 2nd and Pyle in 3rd. I've fallen down all the way to 7th. James and this guy really messed me up by getting all the way to the end. Camel is in 6th, to be fair, so not doing too bad. Gentleman's all the way down in 13. And Gabony, last season's winner, is all the way at the bottom in 20th. So, shows what he knew. Alright. But, let's have a go, then. Let's get into the replay. So, we've got a couple of Underworld games. And then we've got the a few... We've got most of the remaining duels. We've got Split's run, Kerper's run, and I think Doohoo's run. But for now, we've got the Underworld game, Child versus Eros, and Jacoby versus Dino. The winner of each of these games will then go on to play... I think they play each other? Yes, they play each other. And then the winner of that game will be up against QQ. So let's have a look at who it's going to be. Child versus Eros. Alright. So, Child, Squirrel, Lizard, Mole, Chameleon, Snake, Fox. Against Squirrel, Falcon, Skunk, Chameleon, Fox, Machine Gun. So, pretty unusual decks from both players. And both running Fox. Eros abandoned his Fox for the last game against Coloru and managed to pull through because of it. But it seems like he's trying to go back to it now. It'd be very embarrassing for him if he gets outfoxed by Child. Child sticking with 3 tier 1 as he's usually a quite aggressive player. But seeing the Fox come out as his tier 3 is... I mean, in some way it makes sense, as Fox is one of the most aggressive tier 3 options. I think Fox and Badger are the ones that you can really rush out. Although Boar has now joined that list. It's just that I sort of expected him to be running Boar. Or even Wolf. I don't think I've ever seen Child run Fox before. Now, Yoep, running 3 tier 2s is pretty unusual. Falcons, Skunks and Chameleons, I think they go pretty well together. Bit of debate about whether or not Skunks and Chameleons should both be in the same deck, but I think it works. Now, the interesting thing is taking them with Fox rather than Wolf. I think that's more or less Eros making a point about the fact that he's still a Fox player at heart, rather than that being the best thing to do. And Child is now coming in with a few moles, only 3 moles, but getting some damage done anyway with his squirrels. Killing a Warren, and killing Warrens is actually quite important. Makes it very hard for... It's going to delay Eros's chance to rebuild. But this Chameleon coming in is going to clean up all of these squirrels and put an end to this attack. Moles and squirrels together can actually hold off a Chameleon, but Eros is microing this Chameleon very well. He lets it get down to extremely low health before recloaking it. So now Child is going to go back. He's going to go into snakes rather than his own chameleons. I think that's probably... I don't know if that's the best choice. Because I think chameleons would be better because they're going to match with the opponent's chameleons, and then their going to, if they survive, they will clear up the squirrels pretty easily. And you don't really need something that's good at fighting warrens because you've got the moles, would be my logic. Is there a strange noise? Can you hear that? I think it's my computer fan. Sorry about that. Right, hang on. I can actually just turn that off. There, is that better? Anyway, another mole push coming in. This time we're backed up by snakes. Now, snakes versus chameleon I think is a pretty even fight. It depends who gets the first hit. But the fact that the chameleons get up to the front lines before they get hit means the chameleons really have an advantage. And Eris, with that great chameleon micro, completely dodging moles and the snakes to get right on top of the valuable tier 2 and the tier 1, the squirrels. Puts Child under a lot of pressure here, but I think he's going to hold it. He's not actually... I think he panics a bit and sells the snakes, but I don't think he really needed to. Now, Joe Yoop, that rhymes with soup, is slightly ahead on Eco because of his campfire. So Child is trying to match up to that with one farm, but I don't think... He's now putting chameleons down, and that might put him behind. As now he's got to wait for this tier 2 to come up, and now he sells it. I think he's best off doing what he's doing now, which is just going for as many squirrel moles as he can. Although, now that this skunk is out, that's not going to be working so well. I don't think he needed to sell the snakes. The snakes, they didn't do great for him, but that was because of Eris's good micro. But personally, I don't really like snakes against chameleons either, so I don't blame him too much. Okay, here we come. I was looking at the chat, but here we come in for another engagement. These skunks doing so much damage. And this is why I think skunk versus chameleon is a worthwhile pairing. Because the chameleons force all the units. No unit can move further than the chameleons, and that means the skunks are able to get a lot more done with their gas as the units clump up together. And the chameleons being on the front lines means they tank the skunks. You've got double the tanking then. So both of these skunks are still alive at quite low health when they definitely would have died had the chameleons not been there. And it looks like Eris is set to take this first game. He's way up on farms. Child is going to try and go for some mole shenanigans, but it's not going to work. The reinforcements literally cross that path, and Eris has 3 bases up. I said both skunks were alive before they died. I think. Anyway. Moving on to game 2. This is a best of 3, so Eris could take it all here. Will we see any adjustments? No, we're not. Both players running the same decks. I think Child probably wants to... I was about to say wants to get more lizards out, but lizards do really badly against chameleons. Thing is, he could sort of just run around with his lizards and get them right onto the squirrels. If he micros it right, a combination of squirrel, lizard and mole I think would go through squirrel chameleon quite effectively. I just spent today, I deleted a bunch of my replays recently, so the fact that it's still this bad says a lot. But yeah, I think I've been saying the entire tournament that I need to go through my replays folder and clean it up, and yet I haven't. So that's kind of embarrassing. But some people must have more replays than me, because some people leave auto-save replays on. Whereas I choose to save replays. It's just I haven't deleted any in a while. Something we didn't talk about last game was a map. And this map is actually fairly interesting, because you've got a one-tile choke point here that separates both the bases, or you've got this massive runaround that's much more open. But both players have the same amount of bases, it's just that they're fashioned quite differently. You've got Child with this long stretch of mills, as opposed to this box that Eris has got. And I'm not sure which one's better. I think I'd rather... Because... Okay, if Eris runs up here, he'll be able to damage a lot of these mills, while, say, Child is stationed around here. So Child has a much... And vice versa. If Child stations up here, Eris can run down here. So Child has a very long defensive line. But not only is Eris gonna... If Child can push through here once, not only is Eris going to take massive damage on these mills and warrens, but also this mill is on the low ground, so I think a fox might be able to reach it from this side of the choke point. The fox might have to go through, but it can definitely reach it from that sort of square in between the two one tiles. So this is actually quite an interesting map. Alright, well, looking at the units, so far, Child's gone for his chameleons, and Eris has gone for his skunks. So Child's definitely got the advantage in army composition at the moment. He's a bit behind in economy, though, as Eris has expanded faster than him. As well as put down a farm on that expansion. But Eris currently has nothing good against lizards. The best hope he has in defense is he can gas up these one-tile choke points. Child might have actually been able to get something done there, but he loses the lizard. I think it would have definitely... He couldn't have got more done than the amount of lizards he would lose. He probably would have lost all his lizards if he pushed in there. And he would have got maybe a farm. Maybe two if he was lucky. He could have possibly pushed in, but I don't blame him for pushing away, for pulling back. I think it was definitely the right choice. Now, Eris is getting very far ahead on eco. And he's maintaining the same army value. This one turret is actually being quite useful. Because Child pushing in this way is going to have to deal with it. But it's far back enough that Child's going to struggle to deal with it, but it's close enough that it's still going to be able to shoot Child's army. Now, Child is coming in, but he's got a lot of moles, like, way over here. They're not going to be in the fight until too late, and he wants those moles up close. Now, the chameleons go in, but they're not being micro. Child instead decides to micro round with his lizards. But I think this was a mistake on Child's part, and it's definitely showing. I think what Child needed to do was wait until his moles actually arrived here. Then he could have moved forward with his moles and then do the run around. Because he took so much damage on those chameleons and on those squirrels. They didn't really have anything to help clear up this army. And now, Child is so far behind in economy, as well as being behind in army, it's going to be nearly impossible for him to bring us back. He's going for a fox, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It kind of makes sense. But I think this is the mistake, is that he didn't attack while Eris was trying to get through this choke point. It looks like he's going to be able to hold it anyway. He kills most of the skunks. The fourth one gets away with 2 health remaining, but Eris is going to be fine taking trades like that. He can rebuild so much easier. Although, that does give Child an opening to come back into the game. It's just that Child is so far behind on eco at the moment. I think Eris is definitely going to be considering moving around here, get the campfire moved down. The problem is that leaves this route open for Child to come in with a base race and just bring all his lizards on this mill and then this mill. He couldn't do it anymore because now he only has 6 lizards. I'm curious as to why he sold them. I would have sold the squirrels because lizards are actually quite good against most of Eris's army. But this is a better attack, a counter-attack from Child. You can see both his chameleons stay alive this time because he attacks Eris while he's walking through the choke point. So that means Eris's units are more clumped up together. They can't shoot until they find their own tile. I think this is a mistake by Child to attack though. I don't think he should be attacking here. But now he's sort of committed because you can't run away from squirrels. I think that was a big mistake from Child. I think if Child had just stayed here and gone up on farms, he could have caught up. But now he's just so far behind, he's going to have to go through another mole play. He's going to go for another base trade, but I wonder where he puts them. Okay, over there. So they're not exactly hidden. Yeah, Eris just has this on his map, and he probably figured that Child's going for it anyway. If this mill had gone up, Child might have had it. If Child had a mill over here, he might have had it. But I don't think this campfire is going to be enough to let Child win this base trade. Moles can stand in skunk gas for a fairly long time, but there's so many skunks and the squirrels are on the way back. And there's 8 pigs as well. And even if he did get this base, he'd still have to get these 2. So I don't think Child can do this. I think if you look at where Child's army dropped, about 6.5 minutes there on the graph. I mean, Eris went really far behind in army. That was a great attack. That was a great hold by Child. Eris really messed up by going through that choke point. So I think that would be his opportunity to try and catch up on farms. I think he really messed up by going for the counterattack. He probably thought that he didn't win the long game, so he wanted to try and end it while Eris had no army. But it was definitely a mistake. Still though, we all make mistakes. Especially when we don't have the all-seeing eye of God that us casters and stream watchers have. So Eris is going to take it. No shame in that. Eris is a pretty strong competitor. I think it was a bit of surprise that he went out as early as he did. But still no Fox from either player, which is a shame. Now, Jacoby versus Dino. Who's going to be playing Eris for the right to fight QQ? Yeah, Child has a very aggressive playstyle, and it sort of worked against him there. I think in that first attack he could have made it work. He had the good timing and a good army for it, but he just needed to wait for his moles, I think. And that would have gone so much better, but the fact that he lost his chameleons, and then he microed his lizards all the way around the mill, which meant he wasn't microing anything else. Just a little backwards, but hang on, enough time talking about that. Dino is going for a squirrel rush on Jacoby, and Jacoby hasn't scouted it. Jacoby just stayed here and waited for his farms to come down. Now Dino's gone for squirrels rather than lizards, which is a weird choice. If you've got lizards in your deck, why not go for a lizard rush? I mean, if you're going to rush anything, rush lizards, right? Because lizards would already be here, they'd already be attacking farms. But Jacoby now has a chance to actually get out some army to hold this back. Now, this is such a short rush distance, I think the squirrels will be able to hold it. As 2 farms go down for Jacoby at the cost of 1 squirrel. And now the squirrels are actually fighting. Dino can't take this fight. He does have to go back because eventually Jacoby will start out producing him. due to the third Warren being put down. But that third Warren actually probably hurt Jacoby as he was supply blocked. He might have been able to get out his squirrels faster if he'd just put down 2. But anyway, Dino with that attack, very successful, has managed to get ahead in eco when he was behind. You need attacks like that to work, otherwise you're going to be so far behind in eco. But he gets a third farm here. Jacoby didn't sell that, but he does lose all his squirrels. Now, Jacoby has a slight chance to push in, but I think he squandered it. Sort of, he hesitated a bit. He could have come in while there were no squirrels or only 1 or 2. But against 3, injured squirrels aren't going to be any use. No, I keep hitting rewatch replay. A decent half of this folder is taken up by this guy in QQ. Alright, Jacoby versus Dino. So Dino's taken a very quick win over Jacoby. We didn't really get to talk about bases much. Or compositions or deck selection. So let's see if we can get that out of here now. Jacoby going Squirrel, Pigeon, Mole, Falcon, Skunk, Badger. A pretty typical loadout, pretty meta, I'd say. Quite similar to this guy's board deck, except with the Badger. And by quite similar, I mean identical, except for the Badger instead of the Boar. But that's been a pretty consistent deck for a few patches now. Dino going with Squirrel, Lizard, Ferret, Falcon, Chameleon, Fox. A bit more unusual. Ferrets for some harassment, and Chameleons for tanking, and the Fox to seal it out in the late game, when really I don't think Fox is the Warren you want to seal it out. I don't know what Jacoby was doing standing there, but that's really going to cost him, because now he's so much later on scouting this tier 1 Warren. But I don't think this tier 1 Warren is going to be able to do much. Dino might be about to prove me wrong, but he was slightly supply blocked. He went for... He put it down on like his 6th farm rather than just immediately. Okay, let's see if he gets a pig here. He does not, as the squirrel comes out in time for Jacoby. I thought perhaps Jacoby had delayed on scouting long enough, but no, he gets back just in time. The pig takes some damage, but it was fine. 2 pigs aren't enough to burst it down. Dino's deck is well-rounded, it's just not usual. People usually don't take 3 tier 3s, 3 tier 2s, sorry. Squirrel Lizard's pretty solid. It's just a weird combination of ferrets and the Fox being in there is really throwing me off. Fox goes well with ferrets, I think, because the ferret harassment gives you time to get out your Fox behind it from a nice safe position. But both are susceptible to tier 1, to massive tier 1. Thing is, if your opponent can get a massive tier 1, you are dead anyway with this deck. The only thing Dino really has against mass tier 1 is the Chameleon. So he's got his ferret out, he's going to be doing some poking. Jacoby's built a skunk and is already building a falcon. But his skunk is quite behind his army when the engagement happens. And that means Dino's going to get all the squirrels down, as the skunk was there to neither tank nor put down gas. Yeah, I think mines in that ferret deck would make it seem a lot more reasonable to me. I can't quite put my finger on why I feel troubled by it, but I do. It's about like, it's like half pokey and half sort of standard tier 2 push in, which is kind of, I think, good, the fact that you can do either. Because it doesn't look like it's going to be weakening it, but having no pigeons I think is going to be a problem for him. And having no mines or defences to hide behind with his ferrets I think will be a problem for it. Now Jacoby has managed to get a farm down on this mill. And Dino is really going to be struggling to do any ferret harassment here as he's going up a hill. He's got the good squirrel lizard comp, but if Jacoby can get out these moles, then that squirrel lizard comp isn't going to be doing anything. Moles just wreck lizards. Now I think that was a preemptive engagement by Jacoby there. He needed to wait for more of his moles to be out, but you really... I understand the impatience. You don't want to be... It's not fun being bombarded by ferrets constantly, but that was a bit of ill discipline, I think. He needed to hold his ground while his moles built, and then he could have pushed in. But he also didn't move in right. He moved in with his moles at the back when you really want them at the front. Because there, the moles weren't really tanking for the squirrels holding up the lizards. The lizards were just able to get on everything at once, including the skunks and falcons. And again, Jacoby, I mean, this is a more understandable decision as he can't really afford to just wait to build up an army with this ferret harassment going on. But I think Dino's definitely got this from this point. Unless this skunk can do some amazing work, this ferret, Dino's just going to lose all his warrens. And these ferrets are just constantly poking from safe distances. And that's Jacoby. That's Jacoby out in a quick 2-0. Whew. So, Underworld, Eris and Dino go through. Is Dino going to be come back from the dead? He has called himself Undead Dino, so he's going to be trying. Are we doing the Dino versus... Maybe Jens can tell me. Are we doing Dino versus Eris now on stream, or is that going to be recorded? No more Underworld, okay. So the winner of Dino versus Eris, when that happens, will go on to fight QQ. But for now, let's have a look at the Overworld. I think we should do Kerpa first. Now Kerpa finished Duels 7 and 8. He just about managed to survive. So we're going into Kerpa versus Weasel. Kerpa's on 1 life. Has been on 1 life for about... It was nearly eliminated by Jet, but got through cold warp gates. Has kind of been lucking out a bit. Okay, Underworld finishes on Sunday. Not to say that Kerpa is a bad player, it's just that he's had a few lucky escapes. For a start, he ran into me while I was drunk. Then he, then Jet threw against him, or rather, MapGen made Jet throw against him, and then MapGen helped him out even further with cold warp gates. So let's see if he's going to get lucky again. I mean, he has got a better base, I think. I mean, having this on the low ground is a pain, but having these 2 mills, this mill in particular is very safe, and it's going to be hard for Weasel to even scout. We should probably talk about the decks. We've got Squirrel, Lizard, Falcon, Chameleon, Wolf, Mine for Weasel against Squirrel, Lizard, Falcon, Chameleon, Boar, Machine Gun from Kerpa. So pretty similar deck compositions. Same tier 1, same tier 2, only changing up the tier 3 in defense that both are using. Machine guns, I think, are pretty weak at the moment, but the reason they're pretty weak are because of ferrets and moles, neither of which Citizen Weasel has. So I think they could actually do pretty well. All the things that make machine guns weak aren't in Weasel's deck, so Kerper has lucked out there. Or maybe he knew that going in, maybe it was research and recon. He definitely needs to get rid of his campfire. And I think he'll probably take it. Yeah, he does. He can't push onto Weasel at the moment due to this mine. But Weasel's going to be pushing onto him. And Kerper's a bit far behind an army at the moment. He might be able to hold, though. It's only 2 squirrels, and so he could hold. If he gets his chameleon out, he'll be in a good spot. But I don't think he should have sold that mill. I think he should have used it for tanking and engaged. Because now he's given Weasel time to set up with these mines here. It's going to be very hard for him to push Weasel off this territory. That machine gun is going to really help, and because Weasel's back in his base placing warrens and placing mills, it's going to get down. Weasel picking off a warren there, forcing Kerper to sell it for less value than it's worth. Kerper needs to start blowing up these mines. He needs to bring a chameleon down on one side. That chameleon there needs to walk across. Not right in the middle! Oh, that was silly of Kerper. Did he not see those mines go down? I swore he had. But he could have just walked his chameleon around the side of it. He walked it back in, healed it up, and then walked around the other side. Because there's no way he's going to be able to push in. Okay, so 12 squirrels apiece. 12 squirrels isn't really that much. With a good supply. Both people are basically producing the same army, but Kerper's not going to win this because of the mines, and he's just walking into the mines again. Oh, he just lets his chameleons be blown up. Weasel doing some good chameleon micro to keep his cams from dying. Kerper somehow nearly wins that engagement. I'm not sure how, but he very nearly wins. Both players even have a campfire, so that's symmetrical as well. And now Kerper is falling a bit behind on eco, but that's because Citizen Weasel's supply blocking his army and has a lot more money put it down in defences. I don't think Kerper should have attacked there. I think that was a really bad decision. You know your opponent has mines. You know he's going to be building them up. You know the armies are about even. Why not just expand? Okay, so we're seeing 4 chameleons from each player. Kerper going down slightly on lizards. I don't think that's going to be the right call against a squirrel lizard comp, but I could be proven wrong. I'm open to it. Okay, so now it's Citizen Weasel's time to move in. And his chameleons do a bit better than Kerper's. He gets a warren, but I feel like, given that how much more squirrels he loses, that's not actually that good for him. And now Kerper is the one who's ahead on economy. I mean, Weasel... I don't think Weasel should be attacking when he's got all of this money down in mines. He's got 100 food placed down in mines. I thought Kerper might lose that due to the fact that he didn't have... Since the last... We saw how the last one went, and because this time Weasel... Kerper doesn't have any defences. But I suppose Weasel didn't have them either, so that's something I forgot to take into account. Okay, now Kerper actually is in a position where he could consider attacking. He's got a better economy. He's got kind of a worse army, but a worse army because of these mines. He's got more chameleons, though. I mean, Kerper's tried to build on this high ground, but he's been forced off it each time. I think he should really start putting up, like, at least one turret, though. I mean, so many engagements like an engagement is going to happen in this sort of middle ground. So put something on the high ground where it can, it can even shoot down here where the armies are currently standing. I really think this is sort of what machine guns were meant for, but he's not doing it. Kerper has sold all his lizards. Lizards do very poorly against chameleons, so I'm guessing that's his logic. Weasel has sold down to only... Well, Weasel had only 3, now he's completely sold. Oh, and Kerper's being silly here. He's injured his chameleons on the mines and then has left them outside his territory so they can't heal. Weasel could... I think Kerper definitely needed a machine gun to do that, because he was injuring his chameleons so much. Weasel definitely could have moved in. All of Kerper's chameleons were at half health there. Maybe less. So, see, now this time, Weasel moves in. But it was only a couple of chameleons that were injured, and Kerper's chameleons actually got into the fight first, so Kerper's doing way better here. He does walk into the mines again, but he has enough tier 1 that he can just take it. It looks like Kerper's actually going to take this whole game as he starts getting on Citizen Weasel's farms. He's broken Weasel's defense. He's ahead on eco. I mean, just massing up squirrels is always a viable tactic. I was going to say maybe someone should go falcons, but problem with falcons are they're so vulnerable to these mass squirrels. They would probably help with the chameleons, but I thought Weasel maybe should have done better on that, but his chameleons weren't at the front when the fight started. And you see just how much damage that chameleon took from one volley. It lost half its health. Okay, now Kerper's far enough ahead that he's going up for 4 falcons, whereas Weasel is having to sell down his chameleons. And Weasel can't really take this mill. He can maybe take this one, but he'd have to just hope that Kerper doesn't scout it. Whereas this third mill is completely safe for Kerper. The fact that Weasel was never able to secure this high ground means that Kerper can just put too much pressure on this mill. He does have the second campfire in the back, which is keeping him in the game at the moment, but he is still 1 farm behind. And it's not going to last forever. He needs to get something done. And Kerper is just pulling so far ahead in army. And with these falcons, I don't fancy Weasel's chances. The chameleons go down so much faster for Weasel, which means the chameleons are left over to do some work for Kerper, and that means there are more squirrels left over, and now that means that it's all just snowballing, and Weasel is just being completely run over at this point. I don't think it's possible for him to make a comeback here. He's trying. He's got a few squirrels coming in from the side, but it's not going to work. He's lost so many warrens. He's lost all his economy. He's down to 1 campfire. He's getting a mill over here, which Kerper hasn't scouted, but it's not going to matter. Weasel surrenders, and Kerper carries on going. That map was a lot worse for Weasel than I realised initially. That high ground outside his 2nd and 3rd base made it really hard for him to actually expand. It meant that he had to be the aggressor. Alright. Is Kerper going to get all the way to Chippamishi on 1 life? Let's find out. Strownel, I don't think Strownel's killed anyone yet. Let's see if this will be his first. And RNGs are still not favouring Kerper quite so highly, but still giving him some good odds. There's 3 mils on his side as opposed to Srownal's 2. So he is coming off better. He's also got the very defensive mill up on the double high ground. So Kerper has clearly... His favour with the RNG gods might be waning a bit, but it's still holding for now. I just don't know if it's enough to get him all the way to the finale. Okay, so Squirrel, Lizard, Falcon, Chameleon, Boar, and Machine Gun from Kerper. Same loadout we saw in News last game. But Srownal running with Squirrel, Lizard, Toad, Ferret, Owl, Machine Gun. That is peculiar. I've actually been running Toads a bit, and they're not quite as bad as I thought they were. They're not quite good enough, but they can actually do some work. Okay, so maybe this map is better for Kerper than I thought, because with these ferrets, Srownal was clearly looking to do some sort of poking, and up this high ground, and with all this water, it's going to make that very hard for Srownal to do. Srownal is basically going to have to... He's going to have to come from this tiny angle, and he's going to have to get... He's got no high ground vision either. So he's going to have to move his commander up here, where he can be shot. And if the commander dies, then those ferrets are as good as dead. Yeah, Toads still aren't... Definitely aren't the best. Probably not even good, but they are... They are usable. They've moved up in my estimation from always bad to situationally alright. Maybe even situationally good. Against Kerper, who's going for... It could work well against Kerper, who's going for quite a few lizards. Even just having 3 toads could do some serious damage on them if they connect right. But I think 3 toads, they're going to die pretty quickly. Yeah, we've seen James use toads, and he's got through... He's performed the best in this entire tournament. Getting right to the end, or rather getting right to chip with 3 lives. So... You know, there might be something to toads. I was using them against this guy earlier today, and I still lost, but I didn't lose because of the toads, and the games were very close. I still want them to be buffed, though, just a bit. Just have a slight damage increase, or slight health increase. One of the two, preferably damage, I think. Okay, so Srownal going for ferrets finally. Kerper on his second stack of chameleons. Both players going to be trying to do some lizard run-bys. Oh, Srownal moving his massive lizards quite intelligently, although he's left himself open here, and Kerper realises this. He's not going in though. I suppose Srownal just needs to click the button though, and all his lizards will come back this way, so they'll catch out the lizards. Kerper going really hard on eco, going up to 16 farms. I'm surprised Srownal hasn't tried to run his lizards around here. I guess it is pretty risky though, and it leaves him very vulnerable to a counterattack. It's not really the way his deck wants to work. His deck wants to slowly whittle an enemy down with these ferrets. I think now that the game is going on long, I was about to say maybe it favours Srownal, but I forgot Kerper had more farms available to him. Srownal does take down a farm, which is pretty solid. Kerper kind of being overly cautious and not moving in. Kerper gets one ferret, nearly gets a second. I think if he'd gone for it, he would have lost his he would have definitely lost his chameleon, so I understand why he didn't. And now just a massive lizard's come in. But lizards are so bad against chameleons, however, they are able to work through them. And Stroudel, with the good micro on his squirrels, is picking off these falcons. He gets another farm. Kerper's down to only 10 farms rather than when he was up to 16. Of course, 4 of those were due to fallowing. Stroudel is now put down an owl warren. He needs to sell some stuff to actually get the owl out. What's Stroudel on? Stroudel's on 6 farms, 6 to 9. So Kerper's quite far ahead, and now these farms are going to start paying for themselves. Still only on 2 chameleons. But these chameleons can't find any tiles. Oh, the derpy chameleons strike again. Although they finally do get some. They finally figure out where to stand. They start whacking. Is this ferret going to get away? One of the ferrets does get away. No, neither ferret gets away. They get chased down. And Stroudel looking like he's in trouble here. With these 2 falcons still alive, gunning down things very quickly. When there's only a few units on the board, there's not enough to really burst down any of these units staying alive for Kerper. And Stroudel's doing the I'm about to surrender scout, where you go check and see what your opponent was actually on. And Kerper makes it. God damn. Kerper proves all the naysayers wrong, is blessed by the map gods, and makes it all the way to Chip and Nishi. Will his luck hold out? Or is it going to turn? No idea. We'll have to wait and see. Now, who have we got? We've got Split and Doohoo. Let's see if Split... I think Split is also on 3 lives. So let's see how he holds up against Weasel. Weasel running the same deck we saw him run earlier. Squirrel, Pigeon, Falcon, Chameleon, Boar, Mine. Split running a deck that we saw someone run. I think it was Eris actually. Eris in the Underworld games. Squirrel, Falcon, Skunk, Chameleon, Fox, Mine. And Weasel going for a very aggressive play. Makes sense when the maps are this close, when the mills are this close together. Is he going to commit to it or going to sell? He does have a slight problem with the fact that Split has double high ground, but I think he can overcome this, as Split didn't really respond in time, and he's moving forward with his 1 squirrel to try and burst down, stop these warrens getting up. One of these warrens is going to go down. Weasel might be able to take this. The problem is if his commander dies, and his commander is likely to die as it doesn't have that much health at the moment. But he's got 2 warrens already. He doesn't get the he finishes off the farm. His commander's about to die, but he's getting so much damage done. He gets 2 farms, he's got 2 warrens, he loses his squirrels. He might actually get this pig. No, he doesn't get the pig, but he doesn't lose a squirrel either. So Weasel is definitely pretty far ahead at this point. Weasel might have just won. Slight, in quotation marks. What did I say was slight? I can't remember. But Weasel's coming in. He's putting some mines down in Split's base because he's that far ahead. Split can't push him. And now Split just surrenders. And I think that's the first life Split lost. Yeah. Split was on 3. Now he's on 2. Weasel. I think Weasel has also not got a kill. I think the back of... I think past Jet, no one's actually managed to get a kill. So maybe Citizen Weasel is going to correct that and finish off Split. I don't know if that's true. That map was not really bad for Split. He had the double high ground, which would have really been to his advantage. I didn't really look at what the rest of the map was like, but that double high ground is exactly what you want when you're holding against early aggression. It was just that Weasel read the map well. He attacked with good timing, and Split didn't quite play it right. He put his Warrens too far forward where they were able to be shot at by the squirrels, so they couldn't build in time. They weren't protected by the pigs. And he built a Warren on 6 farms expecting a early aggression, but then he sold it. And he didn't scout Weasel in time, even though they were so close together. Okay. So, we're seeing the same deck choices come out from both players. Split going straight for Skunks though, which is interesting. He's at no danger of being rushed here, given the long rush distance. All the units have to come around here, because this tree line is just completely blocks off the map. I think, judging by the mini-map, there's one little pathway through here, where you can go across the water, or up onto this high ground, which is a bit of a sneaky way in. But I'll be surprised if anyone uses it. Okay, so this is definitely a bad map for Split. All of the mills are on... most of the mills are on Weasel's side. Weasel has this very secure 2-mill expansion. This mill isn't so secure as it's right next to the high ground, but it's pretty out of the way for Split to deal with. And Split needs to expand all the way out here if he wants to secure any bases for himself. And he's very unlikely to get a 3rd base. Now, the early expansion is coming out, and he's going for 2 farms on it, which is very good. 3 farms. I think that's way too much. If Weasel were to just build up, he could push through this turret, especially with his chameleons. He could knock through this skunk as well, and he could... Like, it's risky just to take this position, and Split can't afford to lose his position, but he's going so hard on farms. I really think it's a mistake. This is so risky for Split. Luckily for him, Weasel isn't really punishing it, going for his own farms instead. Now, of course, Weasel doesn't really need to risk attacking in. As he does have a better map in general. He can expand back here, he can take this mill, which Split can't deal with without leaving this undefended. Whereas Weasel might be able to get some farms down on this mill, as the turrets are going to be able to protect it. But that's basically it. That might be enough. He might be able to get a 3rd mill, but it's still very risky. And with these mines down for Weasel, this attack is not going to work. Those mines get so much damage done. And sure, Split's able to take off a quick farm, but both of these chameleons still alive. And with the distance between the mills being so small, there's no way Split manages to rebuild an army in time. Split is probably going to lose this mill. He's definitely going to lose a lot more farms than Weasel did. Weasel putting his chameleon into the water by the pigeon, playing it really smart. I think he can Possibly, no, he can't hold. He doesn't end up being able to hold his position and finishing the mill, but he still gets 2 farms and forces a sell on 2 others. He's still ahead in eco. He's catching back up in army. He has the better army. Chameleons beat skunks usually. And these chameleons are just pouring out. He's got more chameleons. And I didn't even notice, but he managed to slam down a boar warren all the way back here. And that's over halfway built. Split might think that he's just about held it, but if that boar gets out, Split's done for. Has Split even scouted it? No, he hasn't. Now, Split is fighting this rather well, getting a lot of good skunk gas down. And now the boar is out. And I think this is where Split loses his second life. Weasel's basically doing his best to ignore that mill. Some squirrels get hung up on it, but it goes down, and Split knows he's out. And Weasel takes game 2. Weasel might be about to clean sweep Split, who's one of the stronger competitors. I went too far. I went way too far. Alright, Split versus Weasel. This is number 9. Weasel is gatekeeping against Chip and Mishi, the 2 elite bosses. And I think he's changed up his deck here. I know Split has. Split has changed his machine guns for balloons, of all things. Citizen Weasel, he's dropped his boar and he's teched in the ferrets. Split's on 1 life. Can he pull through? It's a much better map for Split this time. Having all of these safe mills, all 3 of them are pretty safe for him. Citizen Weasel's got this mill, but it puts him... Split could get a high ground balloon here, and it would put a lot of pressure on Weasel. Don't think it would quite be able to shoot, but it would definitely be able to scout. Weasel's mills are going to be quite spread out. There's one over here, and there's one over here, whereas Split's got them all packed up, and 2 of them are on high ground. So I definitely favour Split's position here. Oh yes, Roundel after this, isn't he? So Split still needs to go through another strong boss. Okay, now Weasel... Split expanding early, Weasel just going for 9 squirrels. I'm wondering if this is going to be a game where the ferrets are quite useful. It could be. If the ferrets can get onto this high ground here, they'll be able to blast these warrens, and it'd be a bit difficult for Split to attack them back. Split going for 2 mills is quite an interesting play here. I'm not sure what he's thinking. Maybe he just wants the territory? Alright, so how many farms are they going to go for? Split played the last game pretty greedy on his farm count. Whereas Weasel was more responsive. He didn't go greedy until he saw Split had gone greedy. And at the moment, Split going for his chameleons. He's the first one to go for tier 2. I don't think he can attack though. Chameleons are so bad over Warrens. Now, as Split hasn't scouted that base. He probably assumes that Citizen Weasel's taken it though. It's not exactly a hidden base. Weasel is looking like he wants to move in. I think he's going to reconsider when he sees that balloon though. Or is he not going to reconsider? He's not reconsidering. He's trying to do something with his chameleons, but I don't know what he thinks he can do. I'd really, if I was Weasel, I'd go for, yeah, do this. Go for farms. You know your opponent has put 120 food into the balloon. So, go up on eco. And it's worse than that for Split, as he's also put 60 food into this mill for no discernible reason. Now, this is a really big opportunity for Split. Not a great opportunity, as Weasel does have an extra tier 2, but the fact that Weasel's commander went down meant Split could have moved in there and does some proper damage. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, no. How much vision does that balloon give him? A lot. So he's definitely seen that mine go down. Has Split, as Weasel has scouted that his opponent's taken this mill. He's scouted both mills. He hasn't scouted the farms on it, but he's still ahead in farms anyway. 4 falcons coming out. Whereas Split's going for a fox. Where'd he hide that? Right down here. That's going to be quite tricky to deal with. Quite tricky to even scout. And now Split's going for so many farms. This could be it for Split. I think Split's in a pretty good spot here. It's very hard for Weasel to actually attack through this. That one balloon is actually pretty significant. Balloon has done nothing. I don't think that's true. Balloon has deterred. Defenses are often just a deterrent more than they are an active, like, going to be picking off units. And it is helping kill Citizen Weasel's commander every time he comes in and scouts. So it means Weasel can't really get a full scout of Split's base. He can scout this mill or he can scout this mill, but he can't scout both. So I don't think it's true to say that that balloon's done nothing. And yeah, he could have spent it on farms, but he's actually managed to get up in farms ahead of Weasel anyway. By putting the balloon first, it means that he can afford to go greedy. Now, it looks like Weasel wants to move in here. Weasel is acting like he scouted that fox with all the mines he's putting down. He still hasn't. He's gone for 6 chameleons though, which is quite a lot. Now he knows about the fox, and this fox is getting some serious value. Is it gonna... Oh, but it dies instantly. It gets 2 falcons and dies. I mean, I guess technically he got 2 falcons and a mine, and Split just walking into this minefield with 6 chameleons up and ready to pounce. Oh, that is disastrous for Split. Weasel's gonna go straight for the balloons. They're going to be doing huge damage to his chameleons. And the chameleon's actually struggling just with these warrens. But the warrens are going down now, thanks to these ferrets. The falcons are starting to get shot by these balloons. Split remembering that you can focus fire defenses. This might be it for Split. Split is supply blocked on his fox. He's got a falcon coming out. But I don't think that's going to be enough. He sells it anyway, so it's definitely not now. I think Split's about to die. It looks like Split's going to the underworld. And with a devastating 3-0, Citizen Weasel makes a clean sweep. And notches the first kill to his rifle. Or belt or bedpost or whatever the hell you want to notch. So, that's one less worry for Srownal. One less worry for Chip and Mishi. Split doesn't make it. That was a very impressive performance by Weasel. It's very hard to 3-0 someone like that. Okay, so Duel 7. Let's save the main event for last. Duhu, he's going all the way from Jet to Sraunel, assuming he survives. Now Duhu is on 2 lives, I want to say. Maybe 3. I know he's definitely one of the strongest competitors in here. I've been having serious trouble with Duhu up on ladder, despite the fact that he plays a very unusual owl deck. He's basically the only top player who mains owls. I don't think Artie is that bad. I mean, it's always just such a big commitment. But it's still usable. It's much better than Toads. In certain situations. It just takes so long to build. And it doesn't quite do enough to actually warrant it. Yeah, map dependent. That's probably a good way of putting it. Because in the right place, an Artie Cannon can single-handedly win you the game sometimes. Alright, so let's focus on the game at hand, where Artie Cannons aren't involved. So Squirrel, Mole, Chameleon, Owl, Mine, Balloon against Squirrel, Pigeon, Mole, Falcon, Chameleon, Wolf. Actually, thinking of it, have we seen a single Artie Cannon this entire tournament? I don't think we have. I think we've seen literally every other unit. So maybe Artie Cannons are worse than Toads, because we've seen Toads used. I don't know. I just said we'd stop talking about that and I immediately went back to it, but I just had to ask. Pyle did. Oh, I guess so. So I guess we've seen every unit then. Right, I mean... Well, let's talk about the game. Duhu has got a pretty solid map here, especially for what he wants to do. Duhu likes to take games long. He likes to really farm up behind some defences and then get out as many owls as he can. And with this base having 4 mills in close proximity that you can pretty easily balloon off, that's going to work well for him. He's trying to get some stuff done with his chameleons, but it's not going to work. No way. Jets saw that happening and he's a bit too good for it. Duhu is really defensive. Well, it doesn't matter if you like Duhu's deck, gent. It works. It's pretty good at holding a position with those, with the defences and the chameleons, and it's got the moles in case it ever wants to do a timing push. The moles give it a lot of flexibility in my opinion. Because moles you can sort of always put down, you can put them down anywhere, and you can always make a push happen if you've got Squirrel Mole. Alright, so Chameleon... No, Duhu's putting down his first two owls. Yeah, but just because a deck is beatable or can be countered by another deck doesn't make it bad. Like, Duhu plays different decks enough that you can't fully commit to beating this deck. And if you go too greedy, you will just get mauled. And if you're not greedy enough, you'll get owled. Like, I don't think this is a bad deck from Dooku at all. And just the fact that you can theory craft a counter to it doesn't make it a bad deck. Every deck is worse when you know that you're going to be up against it. Except for this, guys. Because I still can't figure out how to craft a counter to that deck. But that's by the by. So Jet Erickson going for 2 wolves to counter Dooku's 2 owls. As well as going for a massive falcon. I think Jet might have... Jet's got a pretty solid chance at beating Dooku here. He's going to struggle a bit with greed, as it's going to be so much harder for him to expand. But he does have options to expand. And if he can secure these expansions, he's in a really good spot to just go greedier than Dooku. Problem with falcons is they still die to squirrels quite efficiently. No, wolf isn't an answer to owls, but wolf falcon definitely is. Wolf falcon is definitely an answer to owls. Well, the 2 wolves, it's to make sure that no matter what, his falcons are going to be buffed, and it gives him the advantage of, if he does lose his army, he can wolf buff his wolves so that they can retreat effectively. It means that they're going to be super speedy. And now we're seeing the first engagement come in. Armies are pretty even. And we're seeing these falcons just get gunned down by the sheer mass of squirrels that Dooku has. But he does lose an owl, although Jet Erickson, not wanting to get too far ahead, throws away a wolf as well. Now, something that the wolf does as well is it's going to let Jet boost his economy and buff out his Warren speed, so his reinforcement speed will work better. But he's selling down a lot to get that extra wolf out. And I'm not sure... I mean, I don't play with multiple wolves enough to know if 2 wolves are really that big an advantage. But it looked like Jet was definitely losing there, simply due to the amount of squirrels Dooku had, just gunning down those falcons so quickly. Like the falcons, the falcons will cut through the mice really quickly, and if they get on top of the owl is gone. But it's those squirrels that are really going to be a problem for Jet. Which is why I think he maybe wants to be getting more chameleons out, or more moles or something. Something to tank. Because he does have his own supply of squirrels, but he's got half as many. He's really relying on these falcons that are so fragile, and he's pushing into these mines. Why would you push in against Dooku? You know he's going to have defenses there. And now Dooku's counter-attacking, a good opportunity. And just the sheer amount of... The mice just tank the falcon shots for long enough that the sheer mass of squirrels are able to just crush that falcon ball. I think skunks would have helped Jet there. At least some chameleons would have done a lot. Even moles, I think, really would have been so much useful. What? Pancakes, what the hell is that comment? I feel like you copy and pasted that from the wrong stream or something. Because that's a complete... Whatever. Alright. Moving on. So, Dooku moves on. I need to get some water. I'm very thirsty. I was playing TF2 yesterday. Sorry I missed most of yesterday's stream. Okay, so yeah. He is talking about yesterday. Sorry, Tosh, I've got a hangout over on his stream tonight. Who the hell's his? Misglicker, maybe? I don't know. Misglicker started a while ago. Whatever. Whatever. That's just slightly odd. It's confusing, and it's sort of completely diverged me. I need to go get a drink of water, and when I come back we'll be doing Doohoo versus Cold Warp Gates. See you in a sec. Alright. So, Doohoo versus Cold. Let's get on with this. I think Doohoo is... I never found out how many lives Doohoo was on, but however many he had against Jet, he's on the same number now. Alright. So, Cold Warp Gates. Going Squirrel Pigeon, Falcon, Chameleon Boar, Mine. No, no. Doohoo's on 3 lives. Okay. And Doohoo going Squirrel, Chameleon, Owl, Fox, Mine Balloon. Doohoo pretty consistently takes multiple tier 3s because he's so defensive and greedy. And this works well for him in the past. Having the option to go into either Fox or Owls depending on the situation can be quite useful. Because if your opponent tries to mass Falcon to deal with the Owls, the Fox can just pick them off very, very easily. But if they try mass tier 1 to go against the Owl, then the Mice can really do a number on them. There's so few options early game. Well, he doesn't really need many options early game, does he? I mean, yeah, he loses the moles, so he's committed to the defensive push, but to the defending. But considering how defensive Doohoo is, he's probably going to go for that anyway. And if all else fails, you can just fall back on Mass Squirrel. Squirrel Mole can guarantee such strong options, but you also can have times like the last game where the moles just do nothing but sit in your deck. And you don't need moles. Alright, so looking at the map, it's a bit trickier for Dooku to get his defences set up, but definitely possible. If he can get his balloon set up along here, then he can secure at least 2 meals, maybe 3 for himself, and be in a very good spot. Whereas Cold Warp Gates is kind of stuck to just this one for his expansion. It's going to be very hard for him to push out onto the map. He might be able to, but I don't fancy his chances. Well, if you don't attack him, then he just has no reason to put defences down. Depends how many badgers you have, Srownal. I know Badger can have trouble with owls if there's a lot of falcons, because no matter how revved up they are, they can't actually get onto the falcons. They can't actually kill both. So that's how Dooku usually supplements his army against Badger. Of course, the fox, which he has actually put down, could be the first fox of the night. Can also really help against Badger, just doing that massive burst of damage to it. Before though, when I was playing Badger and he was playing Owl Falcon, despite having more badgers than he had owls, I just couldn't. I would kill the mice, but they'd still pick off like an odd squirrel or two, and then just the falcons hiding behind the owls would just burst down my badgers so quickly I wasn't able to really punish him when he lost the mice. So he was able to just keep on doing that, and little by little he just sort of whittled me down. And the falcons would probably pick up a pigeon or two as well. So I'd only be losing like 40 food of engagement, but that would be enough for him to eventually take it. Well, Srownal, what you're missing there is that you need to commit to building a balloon wall. And building a balloon wall is quite expensive. And balloon walls can get knocked down pretty quickly against badgers. If the shots don't go into the badgers initially, then balloons are so fragile, the badger can just chew through them. Especially if they've got fully revved up, say by shooting a whole bunch of mice. Anyway, Badger is in this game. Cold Warp Gate's only answer is a boar, and the fox is already out, so he is trying to chameleon trap it, but his commander goes down. And oh, is the fox? The fox does go down, as well as a couple of chameleons for Dooku. Dooku really mismicroed there. I don't know if he knew about the chameleons, but he should have. He'd seen the tier 2 warrens. Yeah, he'd seen a tier 2 Warren, but not seen any tier 2, so he should have put it together. And now, Cold is in a really good spot, able to secure this map position. He's deciding to walk in, though, which I think is maybe not such a good idea. Now, he does tank the mine hit, so maybe it was a great idea, because now his chameleons are still alive. They're on his farm, and he's got a huge mass of squirrels before any of the tier 3 comes out. Those balloons went down so fast. And I think Cold Warp Gates has just taken it here. Dooku's starving, but he is about to get a fox out, and he's got 2 mice. It's not... I've seen weirder comebacks happen. Okay, he loses a fox warren. He's only on 2 owls, but 2 owls are not nothing. That's a lot of free units. But he does need to start getting a mill up. And the problem is, I don't know if he'll ever be able to defend his mill. And now his mice are just running off. If he loses these mice, he loses the game. So he's got to be very careful. Owls are a good comeback unit. It's still... Oh, now the boar's out, so that's probably put an end to Doohoo's comeback dreams. I don't think I ever saw the ball one go down. Some decent mine connections, but with the chameleons and the boars and the squirrels, there's no way this is happening. Doohoo taps out. Cold Warp Gates takes life 1. Maybe if that boar hadn't been put down, but I mean, he was so far ahead on Econ. Still, got to keep the hype alive. Okay, so round 2. Doohoo sticking with Owl Fox. Oh, has kind of not got the base he was after. Got only 1 mil in his close vicinity. He's going to have to really push out to get a third. In fact, I don't know. His next closest for third is probably to try and take this one and hold on this corner here. That'd be my guess. But Cold Warp Gates just has so much options here for expansion. So many options. Like Doohoo can make a lot of situations work for him just by being a good player, but if a map is... He can make a neutral map defensive, but he can't make an actively undefensive map defensive. And this map is so hard to play defensive on. You've got these wide open spaces to cover without any real mills to there's no way to build backwards. The mills are all so far out. Doohoo's going to have to try and play very against type here. Maybe go for a fast fox. You can get something out. But he's really going to struggle. Balloons in the middle? Not really. If he puts a balloon here, like in line with this foliage, then he can see both sides, but he's not going to be able to shoot both of them. He'll be able to shoot most of this one, but Cold Warp Gate can sneak around the edge and definitely avoid the balloon. This base, I don't think it's the worst. It's probably because it's on the double high ground that he's taking it. Both of these, yeah, they're closer, but they're on the low ground, and low ground bases are always dangerous. And it is very hard for Doohoo to attack that. Sure, if he had falcons, he could just come up over the cliffs, but he doesn't. And he can't put a balloon there either, because of the territory expanding for Cold Warp Gates. So to attack it, Doohoo has to get all the way up this hill and come around. So it's pretty hard. Right, so now Cold Warp Gate's going into 4 falcons. Both players have got their chameleons out. Doohoo, I think, is saving up for his tier 3. He's got a lot of food at the moment that he's not doing anything with. He's going for 2 tier 3s. I think that's a mistake. For a start, what's he scouted? He's not scouted much, but... He's going to be at such disadvantage when this fight comes. And putting both of his Owl Warrens back here means that if Cold Warp Gates were able to just walk his Chameleons in, he could very easily pick those off. I think Cold Dooku would have been better putting them down here where he could more easily respond to them. No need to go Falcons. I think these mines disagree. These mines are good reason to go Falcons. As well as these Chameleons from Dooku. As well as the eventual Owls coming out. I think those are all perfectly fine reasons to go for Falcons. Dooku could see a cam snipe. He would now that these mines are here. But I still think it would have been safer to put them down here. Because it's going to be easier for Cold Warp Gates to blow up these mines and retreat and then come back in. But whatever. Okay, so mine's not doing so well this time. Warp Gates managing to get a Warren pickoff as well as winning the army. There's so many mines down, and these mines are here. I don't think are in a best position. But they do instantly blow up those Chameleons. But there's still so many Falcons alive for Cold Warp Gates. Dooku has 2 Owls out, but they can't do anything to the Falcons. Okay, the Falcons are finally starting to die off, but is Dooku going to keep this mill alive? He is. He's got enough squirrels that he can chase off some Falcons if he needs to. I think he needs to start selling some of these mines. He's desperately trying to get more squirrels out. He's pretty far behind in economy, but Owls are pretty good at being behind in economy. I don't think, unlike last game, Dooku isn't so far behind that he can't bring this back. But he needs to not lose these Owls. He is bringing it back, little by little. He's picking off Warrens, he's picking off Chameleons and Squirrels. And now that both Falcons are dead, it's going to be very hard for Warp Gates to actually deal with these mice. Just a constant flow of mice. Now Warp Gates is the one who might be losing his mill. The Falcons are back out again. He surrenders. Oh, I don't think he needed to. I don't think... I mean, he was pretty far behind in army, actually, looking at it. Yeah, it was probably unlikely, but... still. Good effort from Cold Warp Gates. Very nearly took it. Brought a Dooku to the brink and took a life off him. Yeah. Cold Warp Gates had almost definitely lost that. The more I look at it, the worse it got. I didn't realise his army was that bad. I thought he still had a handful of squirrels around. But if he'd moved in there, the Falcon would have just got shot down by the squirrels and he wouldn't have been able to do anything. Anyway, Dooku versus Weasel. Dooku's on 2 lives. Can Weasel put another kill together? Dooku's still going with his Squirrel, Chameleon, Owl, Fox, Mine, Balloon deck. And he's got a bit of a better map for it here. Having a very defensively placed mill here on the double high ground. And with balloons, he can not only stop this base from being taken, but probably secure this base as well. Weasel going with Squirrel, Lizard, Pigeon, Falcon, Chameleon, Boar. Has not got a bad base himself. If he can secure this base, he's securing this back one as well. And he's definitely got these 2 bases back here. So, worst comes to worst, he's on 3 bases. Best case scenario, he's on 5. Now, Weasel's going for some early aggression again. We saw how well this worked last time against Split. And Dooku's put a mine down, just in case. He's forcing Weasel to go the long way round. He has got one squirrel out, but one squirrel isn't enough against 3. He's definitely at risk of losing this Warren. He does trade for some squirrels. He's got another Warren back here, and this is what you want. It means that when I said that Split has Warrens too far forward, you saw there, Weasel having the Warren there, yeah, sure, it protected his pigs. But it meant that the Warren itself was vulnerable, whereas this one back here, Weasel's going to have to come in range of the pigs to actually shoot it. And at low numbers, that's actually quite dangerous for the squirrels. The squirrels coming in again for Weasel. Not quite getting enough of a win to justify this rush. He's picking off a lot of squirrels, but he doesn't have enough left afterwards to actually kill any pigs. Will this be the one? He is slightly ahead on army, but he now isn't. Dooku catches up literally as I say that. So I think Weasel needs to stop pushing at this point. I mean, just keeping the pressure on is pretty good. Against a player who likes to play as greedy as Dooku, this might actually be a bit like a fairly good strategy to just keep him nervous. Because Weasel is actually the first one to put down a 7th farm. Yeah, blocking the farms is fairly good in its own right. Just by threatening to attack, Weasel is making it so Dooku can't go up on eco. He has to keep placing Warrens down. That lets Weasel get out a bit of an eco advantage, although he hasn't put his 8th farm down yet. Dooku has. Now, Weasel had a better army, but it's not quite good enough to actually win the fight here. With a couple of pigs shooting as well. And a bit of a better position for Dooku's squirrels, even though they were on the low ground. Some of Citizen Weasels were getting caught on this cliff. They were clumping up a bit. Now, Dooku going for tier 2. That's... oh, well, both players are going for tier 2. I was going to say that was maybe a bit risky when you're under this much pressure. Of course, there is a big payoff. If you can get the chameleons out against a squirrel rush, then the squirrel rush just dies. And you can launch a very effective counterattack. But yeah, since Weasel went for his own tier 2, it's pretty much even. Now we're seeing a mine come down from Dooku to secure this high ground as he tries to make the mill his own. And now it's Dooku's turn to be harassing the squirrels. He has got his chameleons out slightly faster. Oh, and now he's going for a balloon. This is pretty good timing for Dooku. Citizen Weasel would love to be attacking now, but he can't until his second chameleon gets out. And if this balloon goes up, it's going to be in range of these squirrels. By which I mean, no, these squirrels are going to be in range of this balloon. Okay, the balloon can't quite reach over to these Warrens. I thought it would be able to. Let's see, the vision though that it grants Dooku is pretty huge. And he's probably going to pick off this this tier 1 Warren. He does pick it off. Weasel can't really force Dooku off this harassment. Now, Weasel going for the 2 farms is a bit greedy, but like these 2 farms especially aren't particularly safe. 3 is way out there, but if he can get it up... Now, both players have to be very nervous about letting their commander die, especially Weasel, which means Weasel is probably never going to scout this Fox Warren. And I don't think he's going to respond blindly the way you'd need to against a Fox. Okay, Weasel is going to get the scout off. He scouts the Fox, right? Yeah, he scouted the Fox. And he gets back in time, so Doohoo's not able to put anything together. Weasel should probably be going really hard on eco here. He knows Doohoo's in got so many, so much food in defenses and in that tier 3. Weasel should really be... He's trying to pick it off with chameleons. I think that's completely the wrong idea. Because your commander's going to... Oh! No, it was a distraction. He just comes in. That was actually genius. But he loses chameleons, and now I'm not sure if this is going to work. If it works, it was genius, but it doesn't, so it's not. But it has prevented Doohoo from actually rebuilding that tier 3. So now, that tier 3 one is just a 180 hole in the ground. And he got the balloon, he got the mines, by which I mean he walked over the mines. By selling his chameleon warrens, he's actually able to rebuild his squirrel army much faster. Maybe it was genius, because he also got the farms. Now this one chameleon is a lot of trouble, but it's basically all that Doohoo has left at the moment. And now Doohoo's knocked into starvation. Weasel might have just done it with that great attack. Bring the fake chameleon run by. Doohoo brings his entire army back to deal with it, which lets the squirrels come in and just burst through the defenses and farms, almost entirely unmolested, just taking a couple of mine hits. And now Weasel is on triple the farms of Doohoo. In fact, Doohoo isn't gathering any economy at the moment. He's going to try and come in, and he does have chameleons and a fair number of squirrels, but not enough. Chameleons struggle with mass squirrel when it gets to these sort of numbers, and Citizen Weasel takes a life. That was a great play. That was absolutely amazing by Weasel. I wasn't sure at the time, but I think now we can definitely say it was genius. Alright. So, Doohoo versus Weasel, game 2. Doohoo is now on his last life. Is Weasel going to get another kill? If Weasel can take out Split and Doohoo, then not only is that, those are two big competitors he's taken out, one of them from full health. It's going to be a load off Mishi's mind. I think the Gazette will probably be bringing that up tomorrow. I have a fair feeling. Doohoo sticking with his guns. Sticking with this Fox Owl loadout. Even though it's... I don't know. I know it works. I've been on the... I'll be honest, I don't think it's his best loadout. I have been on the receiving end of it. So I know it works, but I don't think it is his best. Because if I know Doohoo's going for 2 tier 3s, my answer is to generally go for 3 tier 3s. I think Doohoo's best loadout is when he swaps a Fox for Falcons. Because that gives him an answer to Badger and Boar as well. Alright, so Squirrel, Pigeon, Mole, Falcon, Skunk, Boar. Citizen Weasel going with this Boar deck. It has been a very large news night, hasn't it? Kerper surviving. Split getting 3-0'd. Weasel's genius play. Is it going to be Doohoo's, the death of Doohoo as well? Okay, so Doohoo looking to come in. I missed the early aggression. This is a really bad attack from Doohoo. Oh my god, walking through that water was such a bad idea. I'm not sure what Doohoo was trying to do there. I think Dooku might be panicking a bit because he is too good a player to be making mistakes that bad. I think this is panic coming through. Dooku sees death coming for him. The Grim Reaper is breathing down his neck. He does not want to go into the underworld. But that was such a devastating loss. He did manage to keep his comedian alive. So, really, he just lost a few squirrels. But that's a few squirrels that he didn't have to lose. And map-wise, it's not really a great map for Dooku, is it? He does have the campfire, and he's got one secure base, but Citizen Weasel's got 2 secure bases. And actually, this water is going to make it very hard for the fox or the owl to get serious poking done. If I was Dooku, I'd seriously consider maybe taking this base, as it's very unlikely Weasel's going to scout it. In fact, Weasel hasn't already. Great choke point for mines and balloons. Where? I think you're mixing up Weasel and Dooku, Sraunel. Because mills are plenty. He's got 1. Sure, he's got the 2 campfires, but he's only got 1. And choke point for mines and balloons. I guess, like, he can put mines here. That's going to be a bit of a... Here, I suppose, is the choke you're talking about. But Weasel can just come this way over the bridge, and it's not going to put him too low. And Weasel has gone for his boar. Now, what has each player scouted? Weasel hasn't scouted Dooku's 2 owls, and Dooku hasn't scouted the boar. How can Weasel not attack through the middle of the map? He can! That's exactly what I'm saying, he can. So there's no, like, choke point for Weasel. There's no choke point for Dooku to put loads of balloons and mines down on. I guess that was the reason for his early aggression, was the fact that he didn't fancy his chances in the late game. From anywhere but the middle is what I meant. I mean, he could come over here. Wouldn't be ideal, but he could. He could even come down here if Dooku isn't scouting it. I mean, that probably wouldn't be best, because then he'd have to walk through this. So, yeah, maybe forget about that. I guess, yeah, he's probably going to have to go through the middle. But once he gets over here, he can then, like, decide whether to come straight down here or go up here and get onto this mill. So, that's actually still giving him a couple of options. As well as the fact that Weasel doesn't need to attack. Weasel can just defend. The owls are going to... The mice are going to get slowed down by this water. So, if Weasel just builds up a couple of boars and a good falcon count, he can just sit on this mill and just be fine. Now, Dooku is moving out with his owls, and he's trying to secure this mill because he needs a third. But this is going to be a bad engagement for Dooku. All his mice running through the water. All his units in the water. There can be no retreat here. He nearly loses his owl. He's losing everything else. He's kept his owls alive, but this is really bad. And his owl's going to get cut off. He loses an owl. He's going to lose a second. He loses both owls. Oh, I think this is going to be it. I think Dooku's dead. I don't see... Like, all Dooku's got is squirrels, and he's up against 4 skunks and a boar. How is he possibly going to do this? He's not surrendering because he's on his last life, but this is such a bad... This is going to be a painful death. And Dooku, he's done for. Weasel takes the kill. Yeah. The water helped a ton. The deck comp from Weasel was really good. Having the Falcons and Squirrels, having the Falcons and Skunks together meant those. There was a really big struggle for Doohoo to get anything done with his mice, even without the boar. But still, a great run from Doohoo. But man, he ran into some roadblocks at the end. Between Weasel and Cold Warp Gates. So Sraunil, once again, still has no kills, but in all fairness, it's very unlikely he would get any because he has the fewest opportunities. Weasel has been playing out of his fucking skin tonight. He's been doing great. And so yeah, Doohoo's knocked down into the underground, into the underworld. Huh. Still a good run though. And that's it. I'm pretty sure those are all the games I've had to cast for tonight. I'm pretty sure that's episode 14 done. Split, Doohoo, Child Eris, Kerper, Jacoby Dino. Yeah, that's going to be it on the 12 Duels front until what's it called? Sunday, the day after Saturday. And that is going to be at 7. Okay, good. Because I tried to stream earlier today. I thought I was going to do this at 7, and then Gustavons came in and said, "Hey, isn't this supposed to be 3 hours from now?" Alright then. Speaking of, I think that might be it for the stream tonight. Usually I'd go for 3 hours, but since I did an hour earlier, and I do need to get up for rugby tomorrow, I think I'm going to call this a bit earlier than normal. And probably faff around an hour before going to bed. But yeah, we're really approaching the end here. Seen a lot of players die off at the end. I wonder who's still around in the 12 Duels. Dino's dead. Playtech's dead. Zon's dead. Jacoby is dead. Dino is still alive in the underworld, technically. Kerper is alive. Kolaru's dead. Snek is dead. Gustav is dead. Pyle is dead. Law Friendly is dead. This guy made it through. Blue Coon's still alive. Aralu's dead. Doohoo's dead. Eris is dead. Eel is dead. Haru is still alive. But he hasn't played his... I think he still needs to play Jet, doesn't he? I think Haru's a bit far behind. Yeah, Haru's just gone silent. Hopefully he's alright. I'd rather that he just got bored with the game rather than was in a car crash or something. And Legoman's dead as well, isn't he? Skeleton's dead. Split died. Child's dead. Ziggy died. So we've got Blue Coon, Kerper, and this guy who have made it through already. We've got QQ, Dino, and Doohoo currently sitting in the underworld. Haru is... Legoman died but couldn't play the underworld, and Haru is just missing in action. Which, yeah, is a shame because I really wanted to see how he'd do, but I haven't seen him in the Discord for ages, and he's been offline for ages. Maybe he's having computer problems or something? So, he might be dead. He might be dead IRL, but hopefully just dead in game. Alright, and that's going to be it. Until Sunday. Thanks for coming, everybody. 5 players at Duel 11, because 1 player gets out of the underworld. Wait, 5? Kerper. Who's the 4th? We got Kerper, we got this guy, we got... What was his name? We got Blue Coon. We got the Underworld. Who's the other one? Is it... It's not Jacoby, it's not Snake, it's not Pyle, it's not this guy. Who am I forgetting? Oh, James. 3 lives. Alright. So, for real this time. Thanks for coming, everybody. And, have a good night. I'll try and get a stream out tomorrow. But I'll probably be very drunk, so I can't guarantee it. Toodles.